Welcome to the Q&A Cafe. We are recording as we usually do here at the Georgetown Club. It's a very rainy day in May, and I am using the date specifically because our guest is April Ryan, and it's most likely that almost anything we talk about will be out of date in about a week, except for her life story. And but welcome, April. Welcome to the Q&A Cafe.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
And I should also say, we didn't book this date with this in mind, but given that your new book is at Mama's Knee, this is really our Mother's Day show. So hooray for that, you know?
Hooray. Hooray for mothers.
But let's talk about right now in this moment before we get to your book, because
it's a lot in this moment.
Because we're taping here early so that you can get to the White House for the briefing. But in reading your book and listening to podcasts with you and just doing a lot of research, and fortunately knowing you, because we did when I at MSNBC before you went to CNN. We saw each other at least once or twice a week at Hardball.
Yes.
And all through the campaign. And I think if I had said to you then one of those nights when we were just chilling in my office, just waiting for the wait to end.
As you have your stand-up desk.
My desk going up and down. And
that beautiful white stand-up
April talking to Valerie Jarrett to get the last minute, whatever.
Ooh.
If I had said, just think, April, you know, in a few months, you're not just going to be a household name, you're going to be a global name. You're going to be a figurehead of really not just an African American woman reporter. It's actually turned around a little bit. You are a figurehead of being a reporter at the White House in this era.
I like that.
It doesn't discount the other two, but the other one moved up to the front.
That's a great thing.
And don't shake your head at me. No, I know you've learned to have a stone face.
I'm
right?
like, yeah, it's very interesting, Carol. To be honest with you, I don't get what people are getting out there. I'm doing the same thing I've been doing for 20 years.
You mean about you?
Yeah.
You're representing something.
Am I?
Yes, and I mean you probably do it unwittingly, which is what makes it sincere and good.
I just raise my hand and ask questions.
Okay, but
the
see,
same thing I've done for 20 years.
But it's up against a different force than before.
There's a different backdrop, a much different backdrop.
And also what's different, and you've pointed this out yourself, in the Obama White House and in the Clinton White House, those are the two administrations you've done, and Bush. While there was well, occasionally the White House briefing, which is a daily event, it's as routine as it gets for being a White House reporter. It wasn't household viewing.
Well, there was a daily briefing. I came in under Mike McCurry as press secretary. There was a daily briefing.
With Monica, it got coverage. But
yes, but there was always a daily briefing, and they would take snippets.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't the whole thing.
But it wasn't appointment television.
Right. Now it's appointment television because I hear it gets ratings, maybe higher ratings than the Kardashians.
The president says it gets better ratings than the soap operas. So, well, because it's at the same time as the soap operas. But in that context, I'm wondering when it dawned on you and your colleagues in the first, second, and third rows that you were being scrutinized not just by the president in the Oval Office, but by the viewing public and social media, and being turned into GIFs and memes and.
Oh, my brother tells me there's another meme of you. I'm like, And the unfortunate thing is I don't have a poker face, so what you see is what you get, and you know that, and it's unfortunate, but I guess it's fortunate. But the thing of it is that in that room, I go in there, I don't worry about who's watching, because if I did, and if I really consciously wanted to say, oh, they're watching, I just do my job. I don't want to, I see people watching because my Twitter feeds will pop up, so-and-so said this, and I'm like, okay, but I don't play to an audience. I do my job.
Exactly.
And the question really is for me, why are people watching? This is not reality, this is not entertainment, this is real life. It is real life. People are, I understand what you're saying. We have a reality TV show star as a president, a businessman, but this is real life. People are affected by the questions that we ask. And sometimes in other administrations, sometimes our questions have helped shape policy just by asking a simple question.
But in earlier administrations, you had press secretaries who, by and large, came out and gave very practiced, very rehearsed, very beige answers.
Spin.
But beige. And
sometimes.
This is, you don't turn away. You know,
but
because you want to see what's going to happen next.
Sean doesn't give, see, let me say this, with all White Houses, I find that they don't give us the information. We get it from the outside and we press them. Yeah. That's why we're called the press. We get it from the outside and we press them for the answers. Now, Sean
presses back in a dynamic way.
I don't know if he presses back or he just doesn't. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it, because one day he'll say one thing and a couple days later it'll be another thing. So it depends upon, this is a new administration. There's a learning curve.
Still in its infancy.
Still in its infancy.
But
still
why,
in its infancy.
Maybe another way to go at it, and I mean this with seriousness.
I know you do.
Why is it so easy for someone like Melissa McCarthy to parody him if he isn't different from every other? There's something going on there that can be.
Sean is not granted he's been in politics, he's been in the RNC, he's been in politics for a long time, but being the mouthpiece is a different thing. Think about it. You have to know, you have to study this. Many of the press secretaries, and I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but I'm just telling you what I know. Prior to the daily briefing, the press secretaries for about an hour or two will study. They'll figure out what what we're asking, and they'll bring in other people to talk about, do a back and forth to be able to give an answer that is credible, or try to at least make it look credible. And then at the same time, trying to give information if they don't know. You know, a lot of times they'll say, I'll get back to you. But unfortunately, sometimes Sean steps into territories, and he's acknowledged it, that he shouldn't. And that's why Melissa McCarthy makes us laugh. I mean, there is such pain for a lot of us in the press, in the briefing room, the James Brady briefing room. There's a lot of pain because we are dealing with so many nuances, so many different things that are coming at us. It's different. And then there's a manic pace now. And then the question is there credibility in what they say? We're digging deeper, trying to find more truths, trying to find out where the is. We've never seen this before. I mean, 1 minute we could be focusing in on what the day is about, and then the president could tweet something. And then there's another variable, a hidden variable.
It's chaotic.
It is chaotic, and there is a manic pace to this.
So even if they may prep for an hour and a half before an hour and a half briefing, one little development could.
Yeah. And
look at the way the Comey, and again, this is dating the interview because it just happened this week.
But it's still going to be going on.
It will, because there will be a nominee to replace him. But the Comey firing happened. Typically, you might see that coming, right, in a White House press corps. But the press secretary didn't even know it was happening.
Well,
right?
no, he didn't know it was happening. But see, here's the key piece. Here's the key piece about it all. Within the last couple of weeks, Sean Spicer was asked, did the president have confidence in Comey? He said yes. Monday, Sean Spicer was asked about the Yates and Clapper testimony. And he said something to the effect that the Russia investigation needs to stop. Then what day was it? Was it Tuesday? Oh, it was Tuesday night. Sean briefs in the bushes.
That's what I mean.
He briefs in the bushes with
Turn
the
lights out.
You can't make this up. Briefs in the bushes. Turn the lights out. And it comes out from the bush. I'm like, what?
Were you in the bushes with him?
No, I was not in the bushes. I was in New York. But you can't make this is like Get Smart. Remember, I'm like, I'm waiting for the cone of silence and the shoe phone, But I said, my goodness, how crazy does it sound and does it get? And I can understand that
That's why it gets parodied.
Right.
I mean,
and God
do
bless
we
Sean.
think Melissa McCarthy will be in the bushes this Saturday night?
She might be. She might be. And there may be a black female reporter raising her hand in the audience, and he's not calling her. He's going all around like that. So, but Sean, to his credit, he's trying. But unfortunately, there are some gaffes. One day he came out with a brown spot in the middle of his head.
It was Ash Wednesday.
Was it Ash Wednesday? That was no. Ash Wednesday is an ash.
Well,
that was a brown makeup
but it's
spot.
different shades of ash.
Well, it was there. I don't know.
Really, it wasn't Ash Wednesday. He had the spot, and
He had a brown makeup spot. If you go back, matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay, well then I would stand corrected. I thought it was Ash Wednesday.
There are videos. It was. I think it was. I don't know, but it.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
their video. Then I mean. You know, his lapel pin was upside down. People were like on Twitter, Sean is calling out for help. I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
And then one day he came out with salad in his teeth, and people were like, he did.
It goes back to the beginning.
And I mean, people were tweeting, Sean has got something in his mouth. And that one you just could not, it's like, you can't do this.
It started like that for him with the president being upset that he wore a blue suit. And why didn't he have any dark suits? Remember that?
No, it started out with him that Saturday when a few women were walking around, you know, in D.C., New York, and London, Australia, Lansing. And then he goes out, just a few women just walk around. They go out because a few women were walking around and his suit didn't fit. And people were joking about that. I mean, it is so, when you are doing a job, you're not thinking about the optics, you're thinking about the job. And that's what I'm saying. When we go out there, when I go out, I'm not thinking about the TV cameras rolling. I'm looking at my
but
phone.
Now you have to.
I'm not thinking about, because if I start thinking about it, I don't ever want to play to.
But I did hear you say, I don't remember, may have been an interview with Pastor Jakes that
Bishop Jakes. So that was
Bishop
recent.
Jakes.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were saying, and I thought this is kind of what I'm getting to, that you realized you had to really think, because you are so emotive, that you really had to begin to think about keeping a poker face.
Well, okay, and that is true. That is true, because again, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. There's so many memes, and I don't care about the cameras. But I guess there is a subconscious thing. I'm trying to just even eyebrows, or just to look up like in astonishment, it's captured. But it's real, it's in real time. You know, that Hitler statement, I couldn't believe
you
it.
You and Ashley Parker both became
eyebrows
became the faces.
I was like, and people are like, ooh,
so because I think what it is
I just couldn't believe it. But I have to bring that in and just feel it.
But with a few exceptions, you were accustomed to the press briefing just being a routine part of your job, not being a TV show.
Exactly. For 20 years, it's been a routine.
Yeah, so how do you and your colleagues, I'm sure you get together and discuss the impact this has on the way you do your jobs, though.
It's tough.
And that how you need to conduct yourselves and...
Yeah, we have to be always cognizant now, and it's not just that. We have to be cognizant about the atmospherics, the people, the new people who are in the room, because there are people who are not journalists that, in the typical sense that we consider, and they're coming to attack us. So there is a whole.
And they're getting hard passes.
They're wearing temporary passes. They're getting passes. They're getting in some kind of way.
But I don't notice.
Oh, it's not. I'm not even just talking about I'm not talking about. There are a lot of different organizations. I don't even know these organizations, and they're starting to screw. Somebody came out and chastised us right after the brief. I'm like, who are you? Are you a media member? And he just chastised us. And there's a couple different people have been coming, and I'm like, who are you? And I'm just now going to keep my mouth shut because I don't know who these people are.
But the attitude of the press office staff toward them is, y'all are welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome here.
There's an irony here in that when the administration first came in, there was some talk, and I think it was true, that they were thinking of moving the press corps out of the White House complex, out of the briefing room, possibly to the EEOB, who knows where if not there.
Right.
And yet, I guess they found now that it's a plus having them right nearby.
I don't know if they found out it's a plus because they're playing games again. The Russia leader came in, and
And you weren't allowed into the Oval Office for that, right?
And
Lavrov.
Then Tillerson, Secretary of State, was, I believe, in Virginia, and a reporter went to ask him a question, and he was arrested, a 30-year veteran. Because he got too close.
It's very different,
Excuse
and
me?
nobody.
Excuse me, Human Price. I'm sorry.
Every day's different, and the rules aren't the rules. anymore, and
the rules are not the rules.
And a large number of the people running the administration did not work in administration.
But see, and this is the piece. This is the piece. And again, this is the key piece. I don't care whether it's Hugh Price. I don't care whether it's the White House. I don't care if it's former President Obama or it's former President Bill Clinton. The press is a part of the fabric and the framework of this wonderful nation.
Yeah.
First Amendment.
Yeah.
And John McCain was so clear and succinct and right when he said, when you suppress the press, when you suppress the press, there is the beginnings of a dictatorship. So,
do you feel suppressed?
Yes. Even though they are open and they're bringing in more people into the briefing room or what have you, they're still we are, according to Steve Bannon, the opposition party. According to the president, we're the enemy of the people. And there is a segment of society who believe this, and they're acting out. Just for an instance, you know, that famous moment where Sean, I dropped my head, and he said I was shaking my head at the beginning, and I wasn't. You know, I had a death threat. Why? Because people are now hating the press. Why?
Well, because there's been a big setup toward that that goes way back to the campaign.
Yeah, it's a big setup. But you know what? I have not touched you. I am giving you fact.
Yeah,
it's up to you to turn me off.
But it's new waters, and then
it's up to you to turn me off. Do not put your hands on me. Do not threaten me. You know.
Well, let's go back because it was interesting in reading about you and whatnot. You've been a White House correspondent since Clinton.
Second term.
So you went through Monica. So you know what that drama was like.
I didn't go through Monica, but I was there.
You came after. Yeah, okay, well, but you came in and.
It was an exciting time. It was the race initiative. It was Monica. It was a whole bunch of different things. But it was a very newsy time.
And then Bush and 9/11, and then.
Before Bush, we didn't know who our president was going to be for several weeks.
Right.
And then the White House M&M boxes did not have the name of the president.
I have
did not have a
collector's
signature.
items.
I have
for
those, and yes. So I mean, and then it's been a newsy time over these 20 years.
But did you have press secretaries blowing back at you even then?
Robert Gibbs. I had Robert Gibbs.
And I remember what Robert Gibbs said to you. He said to you,
he apologized.
I have to act crazy.
You remember that?
I have to act crazy to you, April, to protect Desiree Rogers.
You remember that, and that happened. His apology came in the green room of the hardball. Floor.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about it, because he said that, I'm so glad you were there and you know about that. Because he said that, I knew what Sean was doing that day.
But that's not okay.
It's not okay. But I knew what he was doing.
Okay.
I understood the game. Once you let me know what the game is, I understand how you are playing it. So therefore I see. So I don't take it personally, but yet when you cut me, I do bleed. But I understood your base does not like me. They ask you, why do you call on me? I understand that maybe the President of the United States doesn't like the questions that I ask. I understand. A former press secretary from the Bush years emailed me and said, I would never have done that to you, and apologized to me for that. And also said, do you think that the president told Sean Spicer to do this? So, and I've been emailing with the press secretary that said this to me, and I said, they're not calling me. He said, it's sad. They said, I don't really talk to Sean that much, but it's a very interesting dynamic. Robert Gibbs, in that admission, let me know the game of politics. And it took a year or two, and this was after he was out of the...
But you're not there to be played with like
I am not there to be played with, but I understand what he was doing. And I understand what's going on.
But you don't want to be I'm sure you don't want to be put in a situation where you feel you have to play back.
Oh no, I'm not playing back.
Okay.
But I understand why you're doing what you're doing, because you're trying to satisfy someone, as Robert Gibbs was trying to satisfy someone. I understand
it's all
what
a show.
And the question that I asked did not call for that response.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what you do. American Urban Radio Networks.
Yes.
You have been with them for
20 years.
20 years. You report to a predominantly large audience of African American listeners on 300 stations nationwide.
Yes.
Which stations in DC carry your reports, or in the DC area?
We are restructuring, and I know serious. I know Joe Madison carries us. You know,
so it's like your principal station here.
One of them. We've gone in and out.
Yeah.
We're restructuring and we're coming back in a different way as well.
All because of April Ryan.
I don't know.
You work in the basement press office. I don't think a lot of people understand
The
that
basement level, yeah.
there's 2 floors of the press office. Well, equally powerful, maybe more so.
But we have no natural sunlight.
I think you could be a skiff down there, couldn't you? But you have a little cubby hole that does not speak to the luxury of the White House. It's a tiny
It is a size. Now this crowd is old enough to remember phone booths. Remember when you put a quarter in a phone booth? My office is the size of 2 phone booths put together. Claustrophobics need not apply. 2 phone booths.
Yeah.
But this is prime real estate.
Yeah. But you have a recording booth in there.
Yes.
And then you also write a blog.
Well, yeah, but that's my other thing.
That's your other thing.
That's my other thing, like writing books.
So how many reports do you file a day?
Actually, I start from home first thing in the morning.
Do you have a studio there?
Mm-hmm. I start there.
In your bathrobe, making breakfast for
in
your
my
2
jammies,
daughters.
my jammies with the feet in them. I'm down there doing my reports and talking to people. And then
And where are your daughters? Have you already taken them to school?
No, sometimes they're still in bed. I'll get them up at 6 and I'm up sometimes 4:35 in the morning working. And I mean, this is a 24/7 job, believe it or not. I can be in a
divorced mother of 2
in another town 50 miles away.
Right.
So, and it's a 2-hour commute, you know, on good days.
Yeah.
Each way. So, I love what I do. And it also pays the bills.
Yeah. No, you clearly love what you do, but I think you put on a very competent facade, and no, it's real. But you know, you go out in the world and do this, and I always think it's interesting being a single parent also, that everything we have to do everything, but for both parents. You know, we're doing everything twice, and you're raising 2 daughters. At those very excitable ages. What are they, 9 and 15?
9 and 14. Ryan's turning 15.
Well, saying, that's a handful.
It is a handful, and when you get
and you're dealing with the Trump administration.
I have a teenager. I have a teenager, and then I got a teenager, and a little kid who wants to be a teenager, and then I've got this great new administration who is like, it's like babysitting 3 kids almost. You're always on the go. I mean, and when I say that, and I'm serious, because you're always looking, people are always sending, I mean, people want to talk, and don't believe just because I'm a black reporter, I cover black news. Don't believe that the Republicans are not calling me. Don't believe that I'm not talking to some of the highest levels in the Republican Party.
I was going to ask you, the leaking
Don't believe that I'm not. The leaking is real.
Yeah.
And they call me Dems, and I'm getting more calls now from Republicans than I am from Democrats.
But
and it's
are
interesting.
They centrist Republicans or Trumper Republicans?
Some of them are Trump people who were never Trumpers, who turned Trump, and now are like, one person, I cannot say the name, but they DM me on my Twitter saying, and this was before CPAC, my conscience is killing me. I said, you did this, you made him king. I said, so you fix it and you pray.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm getting, and they'll tell me things. So don't believe, I mean, the wind has a lot of whispering inside of it. And if you stand and you'll hear. So I have Democrats and Republicans. I have some Republicans who I talk to are staunchly supporting him. I have others who are like willing to tell it all. But even, you have everyone who has a different side of the story, but there's the story. But there's always a different side to it from whomever comes to it, because they bring something different. And you get a lot of different pieces. And then you have Democrats who are just very angry.
Right.
You know.
Do you feel that the degree to which people come to you has, and this is a good thing.
An agenda?
High visibility is a good thing in your walk of life. And you have a much higher visibility than you had before.
Yes.
And so has the degree to which people come to you and want to leak to you increased exponentially with the story in the New York Times, the story about you in the Washington Post, President Trump taking you on at a very visible press conference.
No, the people,
you going on CNN.
The people who, I mean, I have major people. I've always been friends with major
Right.
people in parties, but they feel more comfortable with me now, and I'm finding more so now. I have people calling wanting to talk to me that I don't know. They want to form relationships
Power.
with me. Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know them, and see, it's a back and forth. They don't know me, I don't know them. I have to form a bond and a trust with them, because people can tell you something, but you have to make sure it's fact, because it's relational. It's about relationships. Some of these relationships that I've had for like 20 years, 15 or whatever, I can trust them, and what they say.
Trust is everything.
Yes, what they say, I can.
You know you can go to the bank
I know I
with
can
it,
go to
yeah.
the bank with it. But I'm learning some new people who are in key positions. I'm very leery of bringing in new sources, because you never know.
You got to grow them.
You got to grow them. They have to flower nicely.
But interestingly, you know, when you came to the White House with American Urban Radio Networks, you did sort of come in with a portfolio of focusing on issues that were important to urban listeners, African American listeners, minority listeners. But that too has changed for you as you do that, but you do much more now. You do the Russia story. You do
Syria.
You do this. It's
China.
expanded your whole breadth of what you
Healthcare.
cover. So will you go on President Trump's first international trip? Would you do that? Do you travel?
I don't
with him?
think so. No. One, because finances. Traveling with a president is very
Because
expensive.
your network has to pay for it.
Yes,
right?
your network has to pay for it. And see, that's the misnomer. People believe that because you are at the White House, the taxpayer dollars pay for this. No, 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 no. It is very expensive to travel in a presidential entourage motorcade, whatever you want to call it, in the press pool. And flying on Air Force One is crazy expensive. So we all split the cost, but at this point, it is not financially expedient for us to go, unless he's going to a place where my listeners are really, if he goes to Cuba, if he goes to Africa, or
You would go.
Yeah, I would. We would.
Because you've traveled on Air Force
I
One.
have, and I've traveled overseas with presidents before. I've traveled with presidents, but the issue is, the cost and what does it bring to our listeners.
So let's go in a completely other direction now. A little bit of your book.
That's a nice looking cupcake.
Wonderful. Thank you, Georgetown
That's all.
Cupcake.
I love Georgetown
I want to
Cupcake.
talk about Mary Vivian Gowans Ryan, Etta Viola Smith Gowans, Ida Brown Smith, Laura Brown, Joseph Dollar Brown. How far back have I gone?
You've
I think
gone-
great grandparents.
Yeah, and I got chills.
Well,
You
let's go
called out
back
my
there.
lineage, my lineage.
You are a Baltimore girl, but your family sort of came up from North Carolina, right? And they were slaves.
Well, my
Laura-
great-great-grandfather,
Joseph Dollar Brown was the last member of the family.
last known slave, he was sold in the auction block in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And the Brown family moved him to an area, Columbus County, Chadburn, North Carolina. And he married Laura Brown, who had all these kids. And he was, this is the story in my family, that he was part Native American and part African American. And he had all these children. They had all these children, and they had the prettiest. One of my aunts, my great aunt Betty, they said she had the softest and prettiest hair. My great grandmother had very soft hair because of who Joseph Dollar Brown was. And that's one of the tales that we say in our family. But yeah, it's
And they moved. And so who came to Baltimore? Which?
my aunts, my grandmother's children, and they decided to come because really, essentially, back then in the South, I mean, they are, when I say the South, they are really, really, really South, to the point where and don't laugh, but this is true, I was there Easter, and you have to stand on the back of a pickup truck, hold the phone up, tilt your head, and you might get cell service. And I'm serious. I mean, I'm serious.
So you still have family down there.
I still have family down there. My daughters love it.
That's great.
And it's so, Bill Clinton came to that area years ago when he was president with Erskine Bowles. They were talking about bridging the digital divide. And there are still communities in this nation that don't have internet. They did not have internet service. And the service that they would get, they had to pay so much money to get internet. And I'm like, well, when did Bill Clinton come and we still having this problem getting cell service?
Yeah, what we take for granted.
I was searching for, I said, I cannot be here for days and not be able to reach the world, you know? And I'm like,
God forbid.
I know, and I was like, where's the Wi-Fi? Where's the Wi-Fi code? I'm running around. So there's still places like that, and that's where my family's from, tobacco country. You know, I was down there, saw wild turkeys for the first time. They were flying around. I was like, wow, this was great.
Yeah, the only wild turkey you see in Baltimore is in a bottle. Actually, out in Virginia here, you can see some wild turkeys.
But it was amazing. So, I mean, that's where my mother's family's from.
So they settled in Baltimore where? Where were you born? Where were you living when you were born?
When I was born, I was living in Northwest Baltimore in an apartment, Dolefield, in Northwest Baltimore. I was born at Sinai Hospital, where I had my children.
Oh, that's great.
I can't believe they're still open. It's like that long.
I love Baltimore. I think of it as a real city.
It is a real city.
Because I think all the port cities, all the great port cities of the last
neighborhoods,
century.
communities, and people don't like to venture out beyond a couple block radius of their home. Am I telling the truth? Like 10 blocks,
But
they're
it's
like, I'm good.
neighborhoody. It's like, even though I've lived most of my life in Washington, when I needed city, I'd go to Baltimore.
Yeah, and it's the perfect mix. Washington is very
suburban.
Yeah, and it's very focused on that federal quadrant.
It's suburban because everybody commutes into town and works and leaves.
I take my trash out and my neighbor peeps out her side window. You do that so well. I'm like, I wouldn't get that here, you know? I mean, maybe, but, you know, but I have a little community watch group. You know, we make sure we take care of each other.
They must be so proud of you there.
Yeah, we all watch each other's homes.
But your mother had a very evolved and sophisticated view of how she wanted to raise you.
Yep.
She had real principles and values, and you had to follow them.
Yeah, that's my dad, my mom, and my mother.
Well, you made it sound like they were very different people in a way.
They were different people. They are different people.
Your mother had a little more.
My mother was the genteel one who would always.
And your father used the N-word.
Oh, my father, yeah, he still does.
Yeah, right.
And I don't like when
But you don't, and she didn't.
My dad is rough, but he's rough with his love because he wants to make sure you're okay. He wants to see you aspire to inspire. He wants you to be the best that you can be.
That's so important.
Yeah, and he provided the building blocks financially, you know. And my mother's the first one to say that when she was alive. But for my mother,
you still have your father?
I still have my father.
So he's been able to see all this happening.
Yes, but he's aging, and there, you know, with age comes certain issues.
Right, I know, frailties.
Yeah.
But
for
your
my
mother was.
She was the gentle touch in the time of a storm.
Working. She was a full-time working woman.
And she got a degree.
Yeah. Morgan State.
While I was in high school. And she was, I forgot what Lottie she was, but I wasn't even a Lottie. I was like, thank you, Lottie. She was somebody's Lottie. And I was like, and I forgot, and I should remember this, but she was this superwoman that she had my father's breakfast in the morning when he went off because he had his own drayage company and he worked trucks at the port. She made sure we went off to school. She made sure that everything in the home was taken care of. It would be nothing for her to call me in the middle of the night. What are you doing? I'm asleep. What are you doing? Oh, I'm cleaning up. I'm like, go back to bed. You know. She would make sure that my father had his lunch and dinner. If she had an event in the evening, the students at Morgan State loved her. To this day, I can travel anywhere in the world. She touched thousands of lives.
Yeah.
And they come back to me. She was an enabler. She had this great loving spirit. The glass was always half full, but she also reinforced in me that you can be and do anything you want, no matter color, whatever, as long as you work hard for it. But she was also proud in who she was as a black woman, as an African-American woman. We'd stop at the stoplight. She'd tell me a black man created that. You know, don't have a peanut on the table. She talked about George Washington Carver and how many uses of a peanut. I'm like, okay, Mom. So, you know, I mean, but she always had pride in who we were. She loved seeing images of us on TV, you know, from Julia to, you know, we watched Roots. She said her blood boiled, but she wanted to make sure she watched it. Yeah. And she felt that people needed to see, you know, the truth that happens or happened in our community. So she was very ahead of her time. She was also a big recycler. I used to say she was a hippie. You know, she was into recycling before recycling was the big thing. She was into nutrition, and I'm like, oh, mama. But she was way ahead of her time.
But in education, I mean, there was no question that you would go to college.
Oh, no question. No question. I wanted to drop out in high school. She said, oh, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
She said, I never thought any of my children would ever, oh, no, 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 no. You're going to school. She made it a point, and she pushed me. And
how do you translate that to your daughters?
by doing. They know that we're very
Do you hear yourself being your mother to them?
In a way. But you know, the great thing about it is I'm working through examples for them in a lot of ways, because I don't want to be lording over them like, oh, do this, do this, do this. But they see, you know, Ryan, my oldest, and this is one of the reasons as a divorced mother who has to work. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and nor do I want a silver spoon. I would like it on the table, but I don't, you know. But
you want to have it and work.
Yeah, yes. My oldest daughter said to me, Mom, I know you love Morgan. I said, okay. She said, but I want to go to Yale. I said, okay. I said, I'll make sure you go there if that's what you want. And then she said, Oxford. I said, no. I said, it's too far away. I want to be able to grab you on a day if something's wrong.
Right.
I said, I know Oxford is great, but they have these dreams of education, and it makes me feel good. And I think she actually likes Yale because of George W. Bush. So they really like George W. Bush, and they like President Obama. But I think Yale really stuck out to her. I don't know why, but
you talk about something in the book that was very specific about boys, about fathers having to have the talk with their son to essentially kind of raise their awareness about the often tenuous, fraught, delicate, dangerous relationship a black man has with authorities, especially police. Does a mother have to have that same talk with daughters? Does it go both ways?
There's a person called Sandra Bland, okay? Not only Sandra Bland, I mean, I have been racially profiled.
Driving while black.
Or living while black.
Black, yeah. So have you had that with both of them? Or did the riots speed that along?
Yes, life came in, and I was forced into giving the talk. I was forced into giving the talk way before I wanted to do it. My children are like any other kids. They like playing with their little dolls, but also like playing with the Nerf cannon guns and the little archery sets.
Your little sugar and spice.
Sugar and spice with everything nice.
Yeah.
But the problem is that in our backyard, it's open. You can see through the, street into our backyard. We have very open space. And so Gracie, my baby, at the time she was like 6 or 7, and her little mind could not comprehend it at this time. My aunt ran out, my Aunt Pearl, who keeps my children. She ran out and she said, come back in here, you can't play with that gun.
This is when the riots happened?
No.
This is when
Tamir
Rice was killed. Yeah.
She said, come back in this house. Don't you ever play with that gun. I said, she's like, why, Aunt Pearl, why? So I'm at the White House working. Gracie calls me. And she says, Aunt Pearl told me I don't know what I did wrong. I said, you didn't do anything wrong. I said, Gracie, I'm going to talk to you. She said, but what happened? So I ultimately told her that a little boy, 12-year-old little boy, was killed in a park in Cleveland for playing with a toy gun. And she still didn't comprehend. So when I got home, unfortunately, this is real. And when that dispatcher in Cleveland was told about the death, about this gun, they were told that it was a toy gun. It looked like it was a toy gun, but the child is dead. So my aunt, trying to head off any kind of anything, any kind of question marks with anyone, she said, come in the house. So I'm telling her this, and so when I get home, she still doesn't understand. I said, Gracie, Ryan, let's sit down. Pulled out my laptop, and I showed them the video. But I was there with them to walk them through it. And then I gave them hope. You can't tell them these hurtful things and not tell them there's hope, because there is still hope. And then, and it still kind of bothers me. I love Baltimore. I love it. If you don't know anything about me, 2 things you know: I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I attended Morgan State University. And I was at the White House a couple years later, fast forwarding. After the Freddie Gray funeral, I see glimpses of something I thought I knew, but I said, wait a minute, that's, and then they say Baltimore, Maryland on the Chiron. And I'm like, oh my God, these kids throwing rocks at the police. I'm like, what in the world? And
you're 2 hours away.
2 hours away. And I'm like watching and I'm working and I'm like, okay, everything should be okay though. Everything should be okay. And it just keeps escalating and escalating. And I'm like having a fit and I'm watching them trying to pronounce Mondawmin Mall. I'm like, that's the mall, one of the first African-American malls in this nation. And that's the mall where I got my driver's license from. That's the mall, the street next to the mall is where my mother used to take me to piano lessons. You know, that mall, I've been in and out of that mall. That was the bus stop, the transfer point at the bus stop when I was going to Seton High School, an all-girls Catholic school. So I touched these areas. That church where the funeral happened, I've been in that church before. For me, that was my own heart. In Penn and North, when I was a kid, my mother used to take me there to the dentist. So these areas, I am every part of Baltimore. I'm every American. I touch every socioeconomic.
You're sitting in a basement office at the
basement in the White House, 150 feet from the President of the United States, and my city is burning. My city is.
And where were your daughters?
11.5 miles away. So
but they were safe.
I get these calls, come home. School's letting out early. I was like, what? We're 11.5 miles away. So I had to get another mother, another parent to get my children. The closer to home I drove, the harder it was to get me there, for me to get to my children. I got them, I was safe, but I had to explain the realities of life. Mm-hmm. They had to understand why horseback riding lesson was canceled for that day. They had to understand why Girl Scouts was canceled that day because of what was happening just down the road. Baltimore City and Baltimore County are like conjoined twins, and they play off of each other. So I had to let them know what was going on. So, but in the meantime, while I let them know, I'm like, you're safe, you're okay, I've got you. Because as women, we set the tone in our homes. And I let them know, you know, that I told them the story about Freddie Gray. Mm-hmm. I said he should have never been arrested, but he's dead. And I said, you know, we support police. We support police. Mm-hmm. We support police. But I said we have to weed out bad policing.
It changed them, I imagine, that event.
I don't know necessarily. They are aware, but they're still in their school with their white, wealthy friends.
Well, Baltimore.
But they don't. They still are people. They understand.
Right. Baltimore uniquely, and much to its credit, I thought, created a huge united front of neighborhood repair.
Yes.
That the people got behind it.
But there's still a problem in certain communities in Baltimore City. There's blight, there's poverty, there's homelessness, there's joblessness, there's hopelessness. Yeah. The hope is gone for a lot of people.
Well, you work in television, so when I tell you we only have a couple minutes left, you'll totally get that. And I wanted to go back. I wanted to end on something that.
This has been fun, though.
I love. We talked about this long before April and Sean met, way back when during the campaign about doing this. So I'm glad it finally happened.
Yay!
But there's something that your mother had said to you, and this is like in all your press releases and everything, that the presidents you've known call you by name. What was it that your mother told you about that? She didn't she see you in a briefing, and the president just called on you, but he didn't call you by name, and your mother said.
No, it wasn't my mother. It was some family members who said you got to get Washington Power. But something my mother did tell me though, and this kind of relates to the situation, with this crazy climate that's going on. Mm-hmm. And the division sometimes that is very evident via on Twitter or in the news, and some of the things that I'm getting, and maybe even with Sean did. It's not what they call you, it's what you answer to. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm going to continue to do my job. I have nothing to hold my head down for. I haven't done anything wrong.
Lastly, then, if you had a few minutes alone in the Oval with Trump, what would you say to him? If he said to you, April, give me some job advice. How am I doing?
First of all, I can't give him advice, okay?
Right,
But
you're
I
a
will
reporter.
ask,
Right.
you got that one from
Yeah.
that February press conference. What I would ask him, Mr. President, what do you say to the black community right now as there is a feeling of a divide, of hurt, of pain? And it's not just a feeling, the evidence is with the Trump care, the least of these being cut off.
Mm-hmm.
The evidence is with HBCUs, you court the presidents to come in, and then you tell them, Steve Bannon tells them, give us your wish list financially. And then months later, you say, giving the money may be unconstitutional. I ask certain things like that. And I would ask, about criminal justice reform. African Americans have some of the highest numbers of negatives still in almost every category in 2017. It's not myth, it's not conjecture, it's fact. So those are the things. And then I would ask about Russia. And then, because everybody's asking about Russia.
Yeah.
But
You'd
people-
want him to
yes,
come to you with.
realness about
Realness.
issues in the community.
Well, as we close, and I say thank you very much,
Thank
April, and please get At Mama's Knee.
Yes.
And The Presidency in Black and White, her earlier book.
Yes.
If you're watching, Mr. President, and I know you watch a lot of TV, please give April Ryan a one-on-one.
I need it. I want it. I
Thank
gotta
you,
have it.
April. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
We'll see you
Carol.
again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This was fun.